Would it be, while we're working through that, would it be okay to go around and just do some quick introductions?
Absolutely. Sorry. I thought I talked that we've done this 3 times. I thought we'd talked to everybody already, so I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. No.
So I'm Darren. I'm our Executive Vice President of Sales for Visionaire Lighting. With us is Robert. Go ahead, and Robert, you do your own introduction.
I'm Robert Yu. I'm the IoT and controls engineer. I handle things like hardware integration, electrical specs for hardware, and the driver selection for on the wireless control side.
Roger.
Rye.
Hey, my name is Ryan Doyle. I'm IoT product manager at Visionaire for Pangealink. My responsibilities kind of twofold. I go out and look for and identify interesting IoT solutions, whatever type of sensors our customers need or that we want to go pursue, and then oversee the integration of those solutions into the Pangealink system.
And my name's Roger Cheek. I'm basically heading up Pangealink, software guy, so not a lighting guy, but actually designed and came to Pangealink or came to Visionaire with the actual software platform. Ryan and Robert play key roles, as they're saying. So, you know, we built a platform really as an agnostic platform, kind of speaking as an end user to a certain extent. You know, I had control systems in some of the shopping centers that we have and just was not really happy with the solutions that were out there and how they didn't really interact with the things that I wanted them to do. So kind of took that and started designing it around. Came across Ryan, I've known for a few years, and brought him in and said, okay, let's design and develop this. We brought Robert on. Robert was a 7-year employee of Visionaire from the engineering side. So we just tried to kind of tie it in from all different aspects, from user integrations to hardware integrations, to make sure it would flow from an end user. So I really looked at it from an end user, trying to keep it simple. There was a lot of things out there that I just wasn't really pleased with using, whether it was, you know, the Talenzas or SimCons and all the other different systems that I'd been familiar with. They were good systems. They just could only focus on one specific thing. And as an end user and now as a manufacturer, okay, well, what are people really looking for? IoT, as everybody knows, is a very loose term. Everybody uses it in a different fashion. We really try to look at things from a custom solution from a customer standpoint, because not every customer is going to have the same wants and needs. So that's really where this started. I'm going to jump in real quick, share a screen.
While he's doing that, because I've never met you, Zach. So I'm Carson with Stevens Sales. I work for Kevin. I'm the city municipality and street lighting guy. So I'm your kind of local person for this kind of stuff with Kevin.
All right, so it's on a very, very simple level, guys. You know, the biggest challenge that a lot of people had is that there was no way to really see all of your assets on one screen. A lot of companies, you have a user ID and password for your controls. You have a user ID and password for, you know, any other type of sensor that you may or may not want to keep track of. So where we started doing this was really more from a city perspective on all the different things that they could possibly want. Again, we just developed a really agnostic platform. We have two different ways to run it. We can run it on AWS or we can run it on Azure. So again, it gives the customer flexibility. Some people, you know, it's like Ford and Chevy, they hate AWS or they Azure, Microsoft. So, you know, we wanted to be flexible on that standpoint. If you look at it, the screen's pretty simple. We are in the process of upgrading this and making it look a little bit prettier. But it's fairly simple. You know, there's alerts, there's a critical alert. We put the critical alert on something that is, you know, if you wanted to attach like an audio threat, something that is really super important, or some of the sensors we're looking at for the fixtures is if they get knocked down, it would let you know that, hey, this actual fixture it's a critical alert. You have to pay attention to it. We have the lights overall. This is actually a little city, and Darren can go into this a little bit, you know, more, tell you, you know, what the deal is. We also have integrated Wi-Fi cards into our fixtures, to where you could do privatized Wi-Fi. Some cities may have a distressed area that the people don't have access to, you know, internet, which is what we're kind of hearing about during this coronavirus deal, where a lot of these kids are at home now and they're trying to do homeschool, but they don't have internet connectivity. We actually will build out a private network within the lights, to offer that Wi-Fi out to their customers. We are doing things like air quality, whether it's, you know, pollution content, particulate, all that kind of thing. We're in the process of doing water meter integration. A lot of cities are actually wanting to integrate their water meters and other things into their network. Again, they would have a separate, you know, system that you go in and you know, be able to find out what's going on with the water meters. So, and there's various others. We have flood control. There's a few other ones that we're, you know, really seriously taking a look at and integrating in.
Are you looking at meters too, like electric meters?
So we haven't got down to the actual meter itself, you know, from like are you talking like from the electronic side for power companies? Or are you talking about water?
You can speak for this, Zach, probably. With you guys, you guys read your own meters, right? And
Yeah, we
university.
do. You know, we've got the radio read meters that, you know, obviously aren't using Wi-Fi, but no, I'm kind of curious to see what our IT folks would say if they're looking at trying to get Wi-Fi out into more of the green spaces, open spaces on campus. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm wondering how, Kelly, we could tie it in the metering into that. That's kind of an interesting idea.
So again, if you go back, I mean, again, we kind of wanted to make this as easy as possible. Some people, you know, that are going to be on, we do have a hierarchical structure so that certain people will only see certain things. But a lot of people want to do things like they customize the things that are most important. This is infinite down below. So the more sensors and meters you have integrated in, it just continues to go down the page. We have an energy savings, which basically we're taking 1,000 watt metal halide and we're replacing with a 250 watt LED. You can put that in. It kind of tells you exactly what your presumptive energy savings are. And then we actually have energy consumption. So this is actually real time, pulling it off of the drivers themselves. And you can go ahead and see real time overall what your actually power usage is. So down at the bottom, you can see there's a CSV file. So you can change the dates to actually show you, you know, I want to take it from, you know, the 11th to the 30th, and it actually will kick all those reports out, and then you can actually do it in a CSV. So it'll tell you exactly per day what this thing is doing, and then you can kick that out in a CSV file. The one thing that we are working on currently is the fact that you could actually download this and then put it into its own spreadsheet. So if you wanted a bar graph or a line graph, we haven't got that far yet, but the data is all there. So you can actually pull it out, goes to a CSV file, you can put it into Excel, and it'll actually generate that actual report. So the data is there, and we're recording that data on a basically it's every 15 minutes. We're reporting the data. Basically, we're taking those 15 minutes and combining it to once per hour to make it a little bit easier. This is our map screen. So if you're the admin user, you could have literally all of these gateways that would show across the country if you were managing multiple sites. So you don't go into specific, you can actually see all of them at once. I'm gonna go down, drop in. This is actually a city that we have been awarded. We have not started to deploy it across the city as of yet. Couple different things I'm gonna focus on here real quick. So as you know, each one of the lights has an actual zero. What we did is a lot of systems, it's either like yellow or black or yellow and red. You can't really see what the light itself is doing. So what we did is we wanted to make sure that you could actually detect and tell what level that light was. So if you have certain areas that are on schedules, you could actually see that, hey, this is at 100, this area over here is at 50. You could actually see at the light level itself what it is. So you can control one light, or you can actually control a group of lights altogether. Let me shut this off here real quick. Now you'll see these other icons that we have down here. This is everything that's on this fixture. So we have a camera, we have a Wi-Fi node. This is our network, and this is the actual gateway. So everything is on this specific light. So what we do is in this, sorry, I moved it. So what we do is in each one of the lights, also keep in mind, it has all the details that go along with that light. It tells me exactly what, like if there's a floor plan, if it's an indoor fixture, it would tell me what my floor plan is, light levels, light IDs, everything that I need to understand about that specific light. Tells me what type of controller it is. It's a demo 8706. And then down here is a more important side of it is we actually have been working on a system called Dolly 2. It's a intelligent driver that actually we can pull the actual data from that specific driver. So now it's not an algorithm anymore. It's actually to a specific driver. So what that does is two things. One, if we have a fixture that has 2 or 3 drivers in it, we can actually find out, hey, is one of the drivers presumptively going to go bad if it's not hitting the power criteria? Or what it also does is when somebody goes out to actually repair it, it'll tell them specifically which driver it is. And so they can go out with a specific driver with the wattage driver that it needs to be. They go out to that fixture and say, hey, it's number 3. This is the exact driver we need to replace. So they don't have to take a light down, ship it back to a manufacturer or a distributor, have a new light come back out and redo everything. We can actually tell you what's going on at that real time. Again, each light, you can go in and find out their energy patterns. You can run it for multiple days. We feel like a lot of people are probably not going to do that unless they suspect that there's a problem with the light, because we have the overall at the front. This one here, it actually has a camera on it as well. So we've mounted a camera on that fixture. So this is live. This is actually in a little town called Houma, Louisiana. So you have that ability as well. Again, trying to get everything onto one dashboard so that you don't have to jump to multiple sites to try to get your information. There are some software overlays we can do on this. I want to be real specific. We don't manage this. Historically, either a city or a university has their own security camera network where they want to actually have that in a separate system. We're just showing the ability that we can put an actual camera system up and run it through the network. The flip side also is that there are other softwares that we can lay over the top of this, and it can be like pedestrian counts, vehicle counts. If you establish that, hey, I want to know when this particular parking lot, more than 4 or 5 cars pull into the parking lot, the system can actually send you a notification either to the administrator, or if you have it routed to a specific like campus police or somebody like that, it would shoot them a text or an email saying, hey, this light over in this location, GPS location, there's more people that are not supposed to be here than what you established. So we're really trying to kind of think of other ways that the light is not just necessarily a light. It actually can provide other things to you. The other side of it is we really want the feedback from you as a customer to say, hey, we'd really like it to be able to do X. There are softwares out there that can get down to the facial and license plate recognition. We have not yet done any of that. A lot of people don't want that kind of data as of yet, but the capabilities are out there from a software, using the camera to identify potential problems. I'm going to go back out. A couple other things that we did that made the system very simple. Again, you could have your zones. You could actually take fixtures and you could put them in different zones, zone patterns, blocks, certain parking lots. With each one of those, what we also decided to do is to make it easier for a scheduling standpoint. And this tends to be a problem for a lot of people, is they'll go in and set a schedule and it's really hard for them to go back and change it or to add something else in. We really try to do everything from, a point and click, rather than drop back over to a menu, try to figure out where the scheduling thing is and, try to recreate it. So the other side is if I want to go in and do a one-time event, say you have a concert or a movie night and you want all the lights to go off, you can actually go in and have a certain group of lights or a certain zone to actually turn everything off just for that event. Once that event's over, then it reverts back to whatever the normal day-to-day schedule is. So you wouldn't have to go back and say, oh, I forgot to change it because, the next day all the lights are off at, 11 o'clock at night. We need to make sure they all come back on. The other thing is not just from a one-time, is you can actually do it from a recurring. So if you did a recurring, you can go in from this screen and go ahead and change that whole scene from one spot. So again, you don't have to go out, remember your schedules. The systems run on an astronomical clock. So during daylight saving times, things like that, you don't have to remember, oh, we got to jump ahead an hour, we got to take an hour away. System automatically goes ahead and does that. Any questions, points, anything as of yet?
Yeah, help me understand. So each light communicates to the other, light using what kind of communication are they communicating with? Or is it Wi-Fi that they're utilizing to help me understand that a little?
So it's a wireless mesh. So each one of these areas have a gateway. So the lights communicate to the gateway communicates to the cloud. So it is a self-healing mesh network. So it's not in a straight line. If one of the lights has an issue, it can actually revert over to the next nearest light to repair to mesh. Right, you or Robert want to answer that? You're on mute, bud. Ryan.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. So what I was saying is everything's communicating over an AES 128 network. So the security level is very high. Everything is actually compartmentalized to prevent against vector attacks. So basically, if someone was able to get in at one point, all of those next stages are on a hierarchical level, so people wouldn't be able to propagate that attack. What that also does is allow for very robust communication. So every point on the network is communicating to another node that's within effectively a 1 mile radius line of sight. And all of that overlapping is what people mean by mesh, that each node is connected to another point there within. From there, those all communicate back to the central base station, which is connected over a Ethernet or over a LAN. And all of that information is gathered and relayed throughout the points of communication and sent back to the cloud, where we then kind of have that bridge of communication.
So does the lighting controls and the camera data all feed over that mesh network then, or if you add cameras to the light fixture, does that then use the Wi-Fi? Or I'm just still not, I'm just kind of trying to distinguish if the Wi-Fi is just something that you put on to be able to, you know, have a Wi-Fi network accessible.
Yeah,
to
and so at a high level, without getting too granular, the wireless lighting network is very low latency, so it can't handle a lot of bandwidth going over it. So the things that we would send over the lighting network would be lighting commands, the dimming schedules, the energy reporting, or other low bandwidth sensors. So like an air quality sensor, a humidity sensor, a temperature sensor, just little data packets. The video, you know, is higher bandwidth. So we have a couple different options, but we would install, you know, effectively mesh Wi-Fi networks up, where those would be, they would have some points that had hard Ethernet run to them, and they would then propagate that and repeat those in a very similar way that we do with the lighting network. But that would be a network over and above the lighting network specifically.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so their side is I am going to jump over. So this is actually a facility we have that's down in Florida. And what I was going to do is just kind of show you guys the difference between, you can click on these. It'll tell me so this is East Coast, so it's 3 hours ahead. So it's 7 o'clock at night. They actually have their lights come on. 7:30. I'm not sure why they have another schedule on there. And then right at about 11:30ish, they take all their lights down to 50%. So you know, the reason we created this up here is so you can literally see, you know, how that affects. You know, you're not looking at a calendar showing you this. You can actually see, hey, if I wanted to take a certain group of lights and I wanted to put them at a different lighting schedule, you know, I could see all those at a different level. These might be at 70%, these might be at 35, these might be at 100 right around the building. So that's you know, we're really just trying to make it to where you can actually see, you know, what the deal is. If you go down, I gotta move everything up. If you go down to the bottom, you know, there's an alarm page that tells you exactly what the different alarms were, show it on the map. There's little icons you click on, tells me what dates we had the issues with, what they were, and what we're trying to fix. Overall devices tells you exactly where everything's at, the status of the lights, the ID. Each one of them has their own little MAC ID. We tell you where it is, type of fixture, the zones. If they had different zones established within theirs, you could show those as well. And then the events is really just basically their scheduling, showing where all the different schedules are. You can do a quick overview and say, okay, well, here's my schedules. I know that, you know, everything's off, everything comes on, midnight dim for all zones. So we tried to make it very, very simple for somebody to be able to go to do all this without having to run over to a main menu screen and try to remember which, you know, gosh, I can't remember which one I was supposed to hit. And that, I mean, in general, you know, unless you really want to get like a super, super detailed, that's really where we are from a control system. Now we're doing enhancements every day. Lighting capabilities, we can go up to about 1,500 to 2,000 nodes per gateway, depending on line of sight, as Ryan mentioned. We try to limit some of that stuff because if you have occupancy sensors or motion sensors, we treat those as nodes as well. So you know, a lot of this really just comes down to, you know, does it fit? Does it work? We do have it in other campuses across the country that we've done. I'll let Darren get into that. And outside of that, that's really where we are.
Zach, did you have any other additional questions or thoughts or ideas going through your head?
There we go. Sorry, I was
No problem.
trying to unmute. No, it looks like a really powerful tool. The thing that I'm trying to develop in my mind is how we would approach it if this is a path we went down. Just from the standpoint of from energy management, I think we would have to develop an interest from our other parties that would benefit from this. So like our IT services, as far as, you know, having a place to put some wireless network to provide access in our green spaces, and like our security team, so for cameras. And the reason I say that is, you know, with our utility rate the way that it is, it's really challenging. Our energy costs are 65 to 70% demand driven. And so we've struggled a little bit with nighttime lighting and the controls on that. And so I think to make it pencil out for us, we would have to come in with a bunch of other parties from the university that would benefit from the same product. And so we could split those costs for, you know, doing the install. That's kind of what's going through my mind right now is, hey, this looks like a great tool. But to make it be able to work for our budget, we would definitely have to get some other people to share the costs or to bundle it with another project like the one that's going on right now.
Right. The other thing to keep in mind where we've had some success, because obviously other areas of the country, unlike California, energy cost is very low, Zach. You know, like here in Tennessee, where we've done projects where energy cost is 4 and 5 cents, you know, from the ROI on the energy side is usually not obtainable that you're going to win that fight. But where we've been looking at for some of the green space and parks has been where they have poles that are out. What is that maintenance guy, or what is the safety that they have? We've been able to win those battles because of, you know, if a pole's out or a light's out, you get an instant notification within that system. And when you start talking about parks and safety in some of those applications, safety becomes more of a driven factor, specifically in the energy portion, that it does in some of those green spaces. When you think about, we've done SDSU where energy wasn't their big focus. It was important, but their driving factor was more of safety than it was the energy side of it. You know, having the capability, as Roger talked about, of being notified if a light goes out, if a driver goes out, you know, where they have problems, you're immediately notified based on the hierarchy within that system, where the ROI didn't make any sense to them, but safety and notification did. And the other some of the areas, as you talked about in green spaces, are there people that they don't have Wi-Fi? So if you can do it where it's a private Wi-Fi that you can tie in to where those city workers are hopping on to VPN locally, and they're able to get more done out in those areas. You got a, you know, park recreation guy going out there, and rather than having to come back and download everything at the office, he could use the Wi-Fi application to be able to draw down, get information from there. And those are just examples. That's not going to work in every application, but just maybe trying to facilitate different ideas that either you were or weren't thinking about.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of the situation that we're in, because our power is 3.6 cents a kilowatt hour off demand, you know.
Right.
And so, but I think if we can get a wide group of wide number of groups on campus that are going to benefit from this, then I think we could defray some of those costs, and then it starts to make sense. And so
Sure.
When we wrap up, we can definitely, I'd like to show the webinar to our security folks as well as our IT folks, because it'd be interesting to get their take on it and see how they feel. I apologize. We were talking about whether we should invite them to this meeting, Kelly and I, but I wasn't sure, and I probably should have had them join on with us, but wasn't
It's not
sure.
like I had anything to do today. We're all sitting home bored out of our minds.
Well, maybe we can set one up for them later this week.
That's
then.
right, I get it.
So,
Hey, Zach, Kelly, isn't the state requiring you guys to take your energy levels down anyways, though? Am I wrong in that or not? So,
there, I don't know that there's any state mandate that we have to take our energy levels down. The university has our own standards that we've set, and I think long term we will be doing that. But right now, our main primary focus for energy efficiency has been our demand reductions, and so we've been doing a lot of LED lighting, obviously that's operating during our peak demand. And our main goal in doing that is we're able to, the way our budget and utilities is set up, we can recapture our savings. And so we're trying to get the lower hanging fruit first, and then we'll capture more dollar savings to be able to reinvest in future projects. And so yeah, I mean, we don't have a state-driven mandate, but the university.
America's the state of the university. So, but hey, what about retrofitting, guys? If they have a lot of these Visionaire fixtures all over their campuses and stuff like that, are they able to retrofit existing fixtures?
Yes. The other thing, yeah, to answer your question, Kelly, that can be done. The other thing, Zach, is you talk about, we gave you all these different options. So let's just assume at the very beginning you wanted to just control your lights on and off, and then you came back in the later future and decided you wanted added Wi-Fi or added cameras. Those can all be done. We like to call it a la carte, so it doesn't have to be done all those at one time. That's the nice thing about the software, having the capability of coming in to add those features after your fixtures are out there and everything else. So you don't have to chew off that whole pie. You can nibble a little piece at a time as you're doing the projects or continuing to have financial needs and requirements for that. So I wanted to clarify that so there wasn't a misunderstanding.
I'm guessing the biggest challenge is getting the data to, after a project has been complete. So like Kelly mentions, we have a lot of these fixtures across our campus. I suspect the biggest challenge at this point for an existing project is getting that gateway and getting data or wherever run to the first fixture. I guess I'm still
really from the gateway to the first fixture, you have line of sight of 1 mile. So once you go there, you're okay. So it's not as difficult as it sounds. So from let's just say you have a Center Park building and your first fixture, clean sight, is 1 mile. Typically a park's not going to be that far apart. So that next line of sight would be another mile. So that's how that starts building. So imagine kind of drawing dots where they're meshing and they're building around that completely.
So there's really no groundwork that even has to be done necessarily as far as, trenching over communications. If you can set one of these up on an existing building, then you're set.
That is correct.
Okay.
We can do it on an existing building, or we can actually mount it onto a pole. What we were saying is there's two different options. One option is to have an actual Ethernet line in, at the first stage of the gateway. We do have cellular capabilities, but it's not been really proven to be fantastic, especially in remote areas where you're not really getting the greatest of signals. So we typically like to have an Ethernet line in that first one. Once it does, it builds out that mesh. But as Darren was saying, even if you have existing and you have, let's just say you have some twist locks on there, we pull those 7-pin twist locks off and we put a node in a twist lock on top of an existing fixture. So that's what helps build that network out as well. So you don't have to go in and change other fixtures. We can actually put a twist lock on there.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we would do all those other phases that we have of Visionaire and even the AAL stuff out there, because most of them are just tied back to a central contactor box, aren't they, Zach?
Yeah, I believe so.
What we could do is, like, say the older ones are out there, on top of the pole, what we could do is come up with like a retrofit kit that goes on top of the pole, and you can put a 7-pin receptacle on top, basically inside of there in place of like the pole cap. and then we just have to reroute a couple of wirings, but then basically put in a photocell receptacle right there, and we could put a node on there that would take the control stuff.
Okay.
So that's not necessarily how we do it on new stuff that would come with it, but it's easily retrofittable for other stuff.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or anything, gentlemen?
No, that sounds interesting. I guess maybe Kelly and I can work on putting together maybe just an area that we could try it out or get a price on to see on one of the existing. I'm thinking almost on 12th East. Kelly, if you're familiar with where I'm talking, along the cemetery.
Yep. So that was my one question for Zach is for on behalf of Zach is if they want to try out an area and stuff, what do you guys do as far as kind of getting them set up that way?
We can make that work. That's an easy. In fact, those couple shots that we showed from the city, that's what we had to do with them first. We let them kind of play that out to make sure that they were comfortable before they committed to the 5,000 pieces for their city. So they, on that organization, they kind of agreed to leave those there for us so we could use this as a mock-up for them. So that's why those are there. So that would not be a problem at all.
So Zach, on that 12th over by the cemetery you're talking about, are those going to be new lights that are on the 6th?
They're already installed. They're Visionaire lights, so they're already installed. Probably what, a year and a half ago?
Oh gosh, I think it may have been longer than that. Time's flying. I was thinking
A couple years ago. Probably.
Yeah.
So
Well,
do we
It's
want
all right close to his building too, so it's really.
Okay. I was going to say, do we want to try retrofitting something that's already out there, or do we want to throw some embedded controls in the security upgrade so they're already built and ready to go? And how do you want to go about that?
Well, I'm wondering if we look at what the additional cost would be to these lights that we're planning on putting in, because maybe the biggest bang for our buck would be Mark's project that he has to put in a lot of exterior lighting. Wouldn't probably pay for that, I'm guessing, but maybe if it's an adder per fixture, we could look at using our energy management money to fund that adder. And
I think that'd be a good way to go about it, as far as you wouldn't have the extra labor and stuff you got to pay for since it's already there. And the adders are pretty minimal once you're looking at it that way. It's not a big, huge expense. So I can work on that as far as what it costs to put them in the existing bid that's out there right now.
Okay.
Security upgrade. So I'll work on that and shoot it to you.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't ordered those yet. I know we've been working on submittals and all that stuff, so we've been awarded that job and stuff.
I think one thing we would need for that, if you can get it, is kind of a map, an overview map of your whole campus, and mark out where these new lights are going to be going, and then where you would like your gateway to be. That way we can look at it and know, okay, well, these are going to have no problem communicating over here, but this corner might have an issue or not. That way I'd be more comfortable. Is that what you guys are thinking, Roger and Darren? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's typically what we do with any of them. Is we want to look to see where it's at. I mean, if you have some place that's close where you have an Ethernet line, that's great. We just kind of want to take an overall view of the whole layout.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to relocate stuff. We don't have to have you guys go through the brain damage of, oh, well, it didn't work or it didn't reach far. And we like to look at it, and we'll do a survey. We'll do a topology of the whole area and say, okay, this is where we know it can go.
So I guess Carson, what we probably should do is find out what the adder is, and then also look at the retrofit side of it too. So we have two separate things there for him, so he knows how much the adders are, and then we can look at the retrofit on 12th East and 10th North and stuff they just put in. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
How much it is, just so they have an idea. At least they have something going forward as far as costs.
Yeah, and as soon as we've got that map, I can put that together, just because I know what all the costs are off the top of my head, but I want to look at that so I can know, okay, no, we don't need 2 gateways. We need 3 gateways to do this, because that'll change the cost a little bit. So,
okay. So just one comment, that 10th North, that one actually already has controls on it.
Yep.
That's the one that's it's actually N-Light. So we probably don't need to worry about that one at this point. But 12th East. So Carson, are you most interested in trying to make sure I'm going to get you the right information? We've got a campus exterior lighting map. If I get you that, is that enough information, or do you need or do you already have the plans for this project that's been funded and moving forward?
For the security upgrade project. If I can get a map of the whole exterior lighting, and then if you can maybe edit that and say we've got lights going in here, lights going in here, or whatever, that way we can see a big overview of everything, where plan sheets might be, parts and pieces, where a big overview would give us a whole view of it all at once.
Okay. And I think Carson, what we'll need to is a breakout of, the adder cost for each fixture with the enabled controls, and then what it's going to cost for the gateways and different things.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Okay.
I'll tell you it's X amount per fixture. You're going to need X amount of gateways, and they're X amount cost. I'll break it all out completely for you.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, I'll work on.
We're rebidding the Spectrum parking lot right now because came in so cheap. We'll do the rest of it. So hopefully this works out before then. We can add those to them before we order those. So.
Okay.
The one thing I'm thinking that I'll ask Mark. And I think everyone met Mark last week. It sounds like when you guys had this conversation with him. My question would be next is for procurement reasons, as far as the state doesn't let us, typically sole source something. So are we going to have to write, I guess, a spec and bid, because, N-Light doesn't have all the capabilities, at least to my understanding, but the capabilities that my team is most interested in, N-Light does have with occupancy and individual light control, that kind of stuff. And so I'm just curious if there's any thoughts there on the procurement, how we would go about that. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, down at other universities.
Yeah, it's a great question. We've had some success before, and I always got to say that carefully because every situation's different. When you get into writing it around software and not necessarily the hardware, that typically some of the cities we've been able to do is that changes that, because you're writing it around the software and you're not writing it around the hardware piece of that. And so that gives you a little more, I'm going to say you can write a spec specifically around that. We've had success. Even if we need to help write the spec, we can write it either way to, line that up accordingly if that's something you want to go to be doing.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering if on this project too, if we need to, allow another bid, if and compare prices or anything like that. I just
yeah, Carson and I can work on that, and that's a great question. And maybe what we may do is to kind of help you as well, is maybe give you a one-time sample price for this area that you're going to mock up, and then give you a price as well, so that way it gives you guys an opportunity to be comfortable with the product before you move forward.
Okay. Yeah, the only challenge that I see is this project's moving pretty quick. Who knows with what's going on right now? I think it'll slow things down, but
we can have everything back to you no different in a couple days. We know what our costing are. We're up and moving, so there shouldn't be anything to get back all that information back to you within a day or so.
Okay. All right. Well, and that's
Corey with Cash Value Electric is aware of this. He was also on that conference call that's doing the project for Mark, that project. So those two guys are aware of it. So at least we're not having to retrain them and teach them about this. So at least that we put that going for us right now.
Okay. Well, let me talk to Mark. I want to have a follow-up conversation with him, because it does get into a little bit of a weird area where, and I don't know if this was explained to everyone on the call that you had last week, but currently we have two, we kind of did a pre-selection so we can keep consistent on our lighting controls suppliers. And so we narrowed it down to two. This in my mind is a little bit different, because we really haven't used much lighting controls on exterior lighting. And so right now we have watt stopper and end light. And I guess I just want to make sure all of us in house are okay with, bringing in a different group on the exterior lighting. But Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even think watt stopper has a product that would even do this. So I think Enlight is the only, group that
Well,
does.
Enlight's not really the same type of platform this is. I think it's a little bit different. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, as far as all the other capabilities, because Enlight definitely doesn't, offer Wi-Fi and cameras and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
that might be where you have your end light and your watt stopper still for your interior everything, but then the Pangealink for all your exterior stuff. Because we can put this on the AAL stuff too. So when it kind of bids, we can do it that way. So it's not a sole source, but you're just using Pangealink controls for the exterior and then end light or watt stopper on interior stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll help with your procurement.
Yeah.
There, Zach. So that way everybody has they can bid. So.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Well, why don't I do that? I'll talk to Mark, make sure he's okay with us getting this price, and then I'll get you this map sent over and we'll get some pricing.
Awesome.
Yeah, just copy me. Just send it to me, Zach, and then I'll get Carson. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon and great week, and be safe.
Yep, will do.
All right, you too. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.